So we kind of know what's going on. Myself on a motorcycle ride to Sturgis, South Dakota. In the background is the Grand Tetons in Wyoming, 807. Okay, so you've got some kind of idea as to where these photographs come from. And then just miscellaneous, you know, number your pages, correct the grammar. Do not correct the grammar of your interview. In other words, if your grandma doesn't speak grammatically, I don't care, you don't care. I care if you write a little paragraph about her and your grammar sucks. Okay, we'll clean up your grammar for your parts. But whatever the person says, that goes, because that's that person. Okay? And you should try and capture, you know, if you're going to write dialogue, you should try and capture what they say. So if they say should have, instead of should have, it's should have. Although when you write your paragraph about I should have taped her for more hours because I didn't get enough, then I want to see should have, H-A-V-E. Okay, question, there's a question over here.
Our pictures are just for the 3 generations?
No, you can put anything you want, but in there as far as pictures go that represent something important that's going on. But hopefully the 3 generations should be represented somehow, even if it's only one picture. Okay, yes?
What if your grandma speaks a different language?
He can.
Huh?
What are you going to do? Do you speak the language she does?
Yeah.
Okay, then you're going to do it in that language.
You want me to write it?
Yeah.
I don't know how to write it.
No, that's okay. What you're going to then you got a problem. Then you're probably going to have to do some translating. Okay, you're going to have to do some working on it. So we'll talk about that. Yes, question.
What if when they talk to make humor out of it, they kind of cuss?
They cuss?
Yeah, do you want to blurt those out, or?
It's your project. God damn it! I wish she would do that again. You're right. God damn it! I wish she wouldn't do that again.
Okay.
Because that's part of her. That's part of her. If my granddaughter were to interview my wife, there would be a few F's in there and a few S's in there, because that's what my wife does when she's angry. And my granddaughter, who's 7 and a half and who lives with us, knows that, you know, these words are not to be used by her yet, but they're still part of my wife. So you know, that's I don't censor that. You know. Now, if you have a whole paragraph of nothing but 400 words, you might want to know, well, do I really want this in my? You know, this is Grandpa, but not on a good day.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, take a look at this second page, and what you'll do is you'll get another explanation. So if you've forgotten what I've told you, I haven't told you everything, you've got this here. But then luckily what you have are some questions that I've collected over the years, that a colleague of mine and I used to teach this class. She and I worked out some questions. We've collected questions from students in the past. So you have all sorts of questions here, some pretty basic that you should have down, like what's your full name, do you know what your name means? You know, where were you born? If Grandma was born in Bulgaria, you know, that should go in there. Well, gee, how was it when you first came here? Well, I didn't speak any English, and the Americans weren't too great about this. But look at on the page. I didn't number these pages, unfortunately. You have more ways to ask questions. And these are kind of interesting ways to get ideas. Make believe you had a net to catch a favorite moment in your life. Which would it be? Okay, so ask that. Or, you know, make believe you could play again with an old friend. Who would it be and why? And what would you play? Okay. So you've got other ideas here. Most importantly, okay, so write this down. It's in here someplace, but write this down. Most importantly, get them to tell you stories. Oh, when I was 15, it was the best Christmas we ever had. And then that's the end of she doesn't tell you anything more. Why? Why was it a good Christmas? What happened that Christmas, Grandma? Oh, I remember Uncle Jake, blah, blah. What did Uncle Jake do? Wasn't he the guy who was always, yeah, blah? Well, tell me what happened. If you can prod her and get her going, you got a story. Because then you can read between the lines and what is that story telling. My mother used to tell me a story about my uncle who, when he was in college, got his girlfriend pregnant. And in those days, abortion wasn't really an option. They weren't legal and they didn't want to mess with it anyway. So she went away, had the baby. But what my uncle did was he took an extra job and helped pay for everything. And my mother would tell me this every once in a while. And finally it dawned on me. She wasn't necessarily telling me, don't go have sex. She was telling me, you're responsible for what you do. Just remember that, John. So that's, what's in between the lines of this story, and why does the same story, you may say, oh, Uncle Jake always tells the same story every Thanksgiving. Why? What's in there that's meaningful that you can get something out of? And it may be that that's the only story Uncle Jake knows. That's okay. But why does he tell it? Because he wants to be important. Maybe. Okay. That's about all I have. I'll have more samples on the first day of class. You've got the reading list, which is, all of these are fascinating books, I think. Dreaming in Cuban, you may have even read in a couple of your classes, some of you. It's about a fairly dysfunctional family between Cuba and America. Snow Falling on Cedars takes place right after World War II and shows the fallout of Japanese Americans and American Americans and what war does to people, especially when you're living on an island. And I'll have some special handouts because one January term we had a young woman in the class whose mother knew the author of this book, and so got some extra stuff, like some of the real newspaper clippings that were used, because it's based on true stuff, even though it's a. And he was impressed that we were using it in a college classroom. So I'm happy. Journey from the Dance of Life is Edward T. Hall. Was an anthropologist who was always looking for finding ways to explain how culture works. So this is a fascinating book about how time and synchrony and stuff like that is in part of all of us in the culture. Akakian is a fairly recent book from an Iranian woman who came to America with her family. She's a journalist now, and this is a fascinating story about Iran, which I think is important in the world today, partially because there is a large Iranian population in the United States, and Iran is fairly prominent in the news. Something new I've never used before, Williams, The Open Space of Democracy, will sort of end the course with, where is America going? What are we doing? What can you, the next generation, actually, how can you deal with the mess that we've made, the rest of us in the world? So, take some time to read this. Note that in January term, try to stay as healthy as you can, because it's, all of you have taken January term before, you probably heard this millions of times, each day is a week. So, if you miss one day, you've missed a week of class, which is fine. One absence is okay.